class, we learnt about two famous empires of North India. The dynasties which we learnt were the Mauryan dynasty and the Kushana dynasty. We learned that Mauryan dynasty was the first dynasty of India, the first empire of India. And who started the Mauryan dynasty, children? Yes, Chandragupta Maurya, who was the most famous ruler of the Mauryan dynasty, who was given the title the Great. Yes, children, Ashoka the Great. And we learned that after Ashoka, slowly the Mauryan dynasty declined, which paved the way for the next dynasty called the Kushana Empire. Who's the most famous Kushana ruler? Yes, Kanishka. And the contribution of Kanishka is more in the field of Buddhism rather than in the field of military achievements. Isn't it, children? We learnt about these two empires in the last class. After Kanishka, the other rulers were not that strong as Kanishka. And slowly, after that of the last emperor Vasudeva, the Kushana Empire itself split into two. There was a western half and an eastern half. The western Kushanas settled in Afghanistan, but they were defeated by Persians in the long run. The eastern Kushanas had settled in Punjab, but in 270 CE, that is common evaluation, even they were defeated by the local dynasties called as the Yeduvees. And slowly these Yeduvees were also defeated, and a new dynasty called the Gupta dynasty came up in North India. In today's class, let us learn about Gupta dynasty. There are a lot of pictures on the background of statues, isn't it, children? As we learn, you will realize why I have given the background of this kind to this particular empire. So, which dynasty are we going to learn today, children? Yes, the Gupta dynasty. The first known Gupta ruler to history is Sri Gupta. It is said that he is the one who had established the Gupta dynasty. And historians are also of the opinion that he would have been a person who was under the Kushanas for some time. But his son, Ghatotkacha, Sri Gupta, was followed by his son Ghatotkacha, who wanted to become free from the Kushana rulers. Ghatotkacha was followed by Chandragupta I. So, who was the first ruler of the Gupta dynasty? Sri Gupta, followed by his son Ghatotkacha, who was followed by his son Chandragupta I. Now, Chandragupta I ascended the throne in 319 CE, Common Evaluation Era. Before there was AD and BC, now we term it as CE. Now, Chandragupta increased his power by marrying. He married the Princess Kumara Devi of Lichavi tribe, and he gained the control of North Bihar and some parts of Nepal. Then he conquered kingdoms of Magadha, Prayag and Sanketa, and slowly he stretched his kingdom up to Prayag. Children, this Prayag is nothing but the modern day city of Allahabad. So, let us just remember, children, who was the first ruler? Sri Gupta. The second ruler? Ghatotkacha. Ghatotkacha was followed by his son Chandragupta I. Whom did he marry? He married Princess Kumara Devi of Lichavi, and he spread his kingdom up to Prayag, which is the modern day city of Allahabad. Samudragupta was the son of Chandragupta I and the greatest and important ruler of Gupta Empire. He is considered to be a military genius in Indian history. Whose son was he, children? Yes, Chandragupta I. He brought into India the golden age. He was perhaps the greatest king of Gupta dynasty. He was a very benevolent ruler. Children, what do you mean by a benevolent ruler? A ruler who had all the thoughts of his subjects in his mind, that is, the people. He was more interested in helping his people. Such a ruler who is very kind to his people is known as a benevolent ruler. Samudragupta was a benevolent ruler and he was a patron of arts, that is, he encouraged arts and architecture. His name appears in the Japanese text. There was a text written by the Japanese people called as the Tantrika Mandaka. In that, Samudragupta's name is also there, where they are telling that he is a wonderful and a benevolent ruler. Samudragupta started to rule the kingdom and he did not take rest until he conquered almost the whole of India. You can see the map, children. You can see the route which he had taken and all that. His reigning period is fully a period of military campaigns. He was totally and always conquering some place or the other. To begin with, first, he attacked the neighboring kingdoms, Rohilkhand and Padmavat. Then he conquered Bengal, some places in Nepal, and slowly he brought Assam under his control. So what were the places? He first attacked neighboring kingdoms of Rohilkhand and Padmavat. He conquered the whole of Bengal, some places in Nepal, and he brought Assam under his control. Then he attacked some of the tribal states like Malwas, Yaduheis, Arjuneyas, Abiras, and Maduras. The rulers of Afghanistan, Eastern Asia, Eastern Iran, the Kushanas. Remember, we had told that Kushanas are split into two, the Western and the Eastern Kushanas. Now, the Eastern Kushanas were totally absorbed into Gupta Empire, but the Western Kushanas had continued. So, the rulers of Afghanistan, Central Asia, Eastern Iran, Kushanas, and Sakas were all his tributaries. What does that mean? They paid tribute or a sum of money and soldiers to the king. That means they were also under the control of Samudragupta. His ambition, his greatest interest was to become a Raj Chakravarti. That means a great emperor, or Ekrath, a person who was an undisputed ruler who was nobody equal to him. Now, he had two kinds of invasion. That is, he spread his conquest to the North India and to the South India. In North India, he adopted the policy of Digvijaya. That means he conquered them and brought them totally under his control and collected tax from them. But in South India, he followed the policy of Dharma Vijaya. That means he conquered them, but he didn't bring it totally under his control. They just accepted his supremacy. At the height of Samudragupta's power, he controlled nearly all of India. Children, can you see on the map all the places of Samudragupta? You can easily observe, isn't it, children? Quite a vast area. Most of the places, like the rulers of Bengal, Assam, Nepal, Punjab, Rajasthan, everyone were under his control. So totally, he had fought against 9 kings in the North India and 12 kings in South India. Children, can you see the map? Just observe it properly. Samudragupta was a brilliant commander and a great conqueror, and this is proved by Harisena. Harisena was a court minister who has written the full history of Samudragupta in Allahabad inscriptions. the complete conquest of North India and South India, all this can be found from Allahabad inscriptions. So, Harisena's Allahabad inscriptions prove as excellent sources to understand about the conquest and the administration of Samudragupta. How many kings did he defeat in North India, children? Yes, 9. And how many kings did he defeat in South India? Yes, 12. And Kanchi was one of the places which he defeated. Now, he wanted to celebrate his great military achievement and he performed the royal Vedic ritual of Ashwamedha Yaga. I think we have come across this name before also. Ashwamedha Yagam is celebrated to declare oneself as the emperor. And Samudragupta released certain coins, special coins in which he has etched the pictures of the horse to commemorate that he had celebrated Ashwamedha Yaga. And he got on himself the title of Maharaja Raja. That means the king of kings, even a higher name rather than that of Maharaja. Can you see on the screen Ashwamedha Yaga? So which yaga did Samudragupta perform? Ashwamedha Yaga. And what was it that he had released to remember or commemorate the Ashwamedha Yaga? He released special coins. Now Samudragupta is the father of Gupta's monetary system. What do you mean by monetary system? That means the money system. He started minting different types of coins. Now, let us just have a small recap. Who were the first people to mint gold coins in India, children? Do you remember? Yes, Kanishka, Kushanas, isn't it? Now, Samudragupta continued the system of minting gold coins and is considered as the father of Gupta's monetary systems. Now, he had different types of coins which he had printed. The standard type, the archer type, the battle axe type, the Ashwamedha type, the tiger slayer type, the king and queen type, the lyre player type. Now all these are the different types of coin. That means what are the kind of pictures which are etched on the coin. Now, the standard was just a plain coin of the king. The archer showed a person with a bow and arrow. The battle axe showed the king with a battle in his hand. The Ashwamedha, as you know, was to celebrate the Ashwamedha Yaga. Then you have the tiger slayer, that is, the king is killing a tiger. Then the king and queen type, where Samudragupta with his wife both are depicted. Then the lyre means Veena, the Veena player type. Now, these exhibit a fine quality of technical and sculptural fineness. Those coins are very, very clear. You can identify the pictures quite clearly. Can you see on the screen, children? Clearly, the picture can be identified. Samudragupta is also known to have been a man of culture. That means a person who patronized different kinds of culture. He was a patron of learning, a celebrated poet himself, also a musician. Can you see the coin on the screen? You can see that Samudragupta himself is playing a veena. He was a great musician. He was given the title Kavi Raja. He gathered a galaxy of poets and scholars in his court and he took effective actions, like he gave them grants of money and he wanted them to sit and write religious texts, artistic texts, and literary aspects of Indian culture. He wanted to promote all that. Though he himself was a Hindu, like the other Gupta kings, but he was okay with all the other religions around him. Remember, he was a benevolent ruler. A clear illustration of this can be understood that he allowed the king of Ceylon to build a monastery for Buddhist pilgrims in Bodh Gaya. I think you remember that during Ashoka's period, Ashoka had sent his own son to Ceylon, that is Sri Lanka, to spread Buddhism. Now the king of Sri Lanka requested permission of Samudragupta to build a monastery in Bodh Gaya, and Samudragupta himself appointed Vasubandhu his minister. Vasubandhu was a Buddhist monk. He had written books like Vaibhashika, Sautantrika, and Yogacara. So, such a great minister of the Hindu king was a Buddhist monk. This showed that Samudragupta was very tolerant. He was a warrior, he was a statesman, he was a general, he was a poet, he was a musician, he was a philanthropist, all rolled into one. Harisena is commemorating Samudragupta's knowledge and proficiency in song and music, which has been confirmed in all his inscriptions. Because of this, Samudragupta was given the title of Kaviraja. After Samudragupta, his son Chandragupta II ascended the throne. Be careful, children, we have Chandragupta I and Chandragupta II. Chandragupta I was the son of Ghatotkacha, while Chandragupta II is the son of Samudragupta. Okay. He took up the heroic legacy of his father because he continued all the expansion by his father, and he managed to maintain the vast empire which his father had created. Usually, if the succeeding rulers are weak, the empire would break up. But Chandragupta too added more conquests and also maintained the sanctity of the empire. He was an able ruler and a conqueror with many achievements to his credit. He was given the great title Vikramaditya. I think you have all heard of this title, Vikramaditya, which means son of power. Vikramaditya, son of power. He stopped an invasion by the Sakas. Now we have already learned that the Sakas are a group of Iranian nomadic people. Vikramaditya or Chandragupta II stopped an invasion by them and brought them under his control, and he got a title called Sakari. Sakari means a person who destroyed the Saka or brought the Sakas under the control. He also conquered the western Indian region of Malwa, and he defeated the Kshatraps. Now Kshatraps were also a branch of the Sakas. So what are the two main conquests of Vikramaditya? He stopped the invasion by Sakas and he captured Malwa region. Now we do know that Samudragupta had printed lot of gold coins. Chandragupta II continued his father's policy of minting gold coins, and also for the first time he issued silver coins. Can you see on the screen? These two are the types of coins, gold coins issued by Chandragupta II, and also the type of silver coins issued by Chandragupta II. There are many stories in history about the wit and valor of Chandragupta II. You can see a big statue of Chandragupta sitting in his throne. It is said that all his judgments were wonderful, and many stories have been written by many poets about the greatness of Chandragupta II. When we speak about Chandragupta II, it is very important to specify about Fahian. Fahian was a Buddhist monk from China. His only interest was to visit the land of Buddha. And when he visited India, it was during the rule of Chandragupta II. According to him, He says the period of Chandragupta was so excellent that crimes were very rare, and Chandragupta ruled thinking of always his people in his mind. There was abundance of wealth, poverty was not at all known, there was no need for people to conduct any crimes. Now, all the experiences of Fahian in India has been written in his book called Go Ku Ki. What is the book? Go Ku Ki. After Fahian visited many places in India, he returned back to China and he translated all the religious texts which he collected from India into Chinese language. The Gupta period is well known for its military conquest and expansion. We have seen the Gupta map, isn't it, children? Most of India is under the Gupta control. But despite this expansion of the Gupta Empire through war, there were numerous examples of cultural sophistication during the Gupta period. There was excellency in the field of architecture, sculpture, painting. They are surviving even now after so many centuries. So let's learn about the cultural contributions of the Gupta period. First, let us take up literature. There was all round development in Sanskrit literature. There are so many different works. We know that Samudragupta himself was a wonderful writer. Then we have Chandragupta who had so many poets in his court. Let us take up one by one, children. Vikramaditya or Chandragupta II had Navaratnas in his court. That means 9 gems, of which Kalidasa was one of the greatest. I think we have all heard stories about Kalidasa, how he got his name, how he went to the temple of Kali and he managed to get enlightenment and suddenly he became a learned person. Now, this Kalidasa was a court poet of Chandragupta II, and because of his greatness, he was given the name of Kavi Kula Guru. That means the teacher of the entire Kula or dynasty. What was the title given to him? Kavi Kula Guru. He is considered to be the best playwright in the entire world. What does that mean, playwright? Playwright means a person who writes plays or a dramatist. Let us just see what are the things written by him. First, the dramas or the plays written by Kalidasa are Vikrama Urvasya, Malavikagnyamitra, Abhinyana Shakuntala, of which Abhinyana Shakuntala has been translated to so many languages and many plays have been enacted. The epic poems of Kalidasa are Raghuvamsa, Kumarasambhava, Ritu Samhara, and Meghaduta. What were the epic poems? Raghuvamsa, Kumarasambhava, Ritu Samhara, and Meghaduta. The other Sanskrit works during the Gupta period, you can see on the screen, children, the various works. Shudraka wrote the book Mirchakatika, and Vishagadatta wrote the book Mudra Rakshasa. And we have all come across Panchatantra. I'm sure you all love to read the book where you have all the characters as animals. Wonderful, isn't it? From childhood, you have been reading the illustrations in comic forms and stories. This famous Panchatantra was written by Vishnu Sharma of the Gupta period. And also a Sanskrit dictionary, Amarakosha, was written by Amarasimha. Children, this dictionary is still in use. We still use this dictionary for Sanskrit language. So, what did Shudraka write? Mirchakatika. Who wrote Mudra Rakshasa? Vishagadatta. And what is the famous book of Vishnu Sharma which we all love to read? Panchatantra. And which is the dictionary written by Amarasimha in Sanskrit? Amarakosha. Architecture flourished in Gupta period. Special importance should be given to the study of temple architecture during the Gupta period. Now let us learn about temple architecture, children. During the reign of Guptas, the temple architecture started. Now let us see some of the examples. You can see the pictures on the screen, children. The Sanchi temple in Madhya Pradesh is an ancient temple of India which is built during the Gupta period. Now some of the other temples you can find at Bitargaon and Devagad of Madhya Pradesh. Now the Dashavatara temple, I think Dashavatara means 10 avatars of Vishnu. This Dashavatara temple of Devagad is a beautiful temple because it has a beautiful statue of Lord Vishnu there. All these are still there for us to see the wonderful architecture of the Gupta period. Remember children, this is somewhere in the 3rd century. How wonderful they have done the architecture. Just watch. Stupas are also very famous during the Gupta period, and Dameka Stupa is a 128 feet tall stupa at Sarnath near Varanasi. Can you see that stupa that is 128 feet tall, children? When we come to paintings, it was very famous during the Gupta period, and they also built rock-cut Buddha viharas. From rocks they cut viharas where they prayed to Buddha. Buddha viharas are places of people where they go to these viharas, sit and pray and do meditation to Lord Buddha. And Gupta period was very famous for cave temples. What do you mean by cave temples? When caves are converted into temples by building beautiful sculptures and painting inside the caves, they are known as cave temples. Examples of Buddha period can be found in Ajanta caves and Ellora caves. Many of you would have seen in the internet, or some of your friends would have gone and visited. They are very beautiful places, and the paintings are very, very beautiful. These paintings on the walls are known as frescoes. So what is the greatness of these frescoes? They are painted by using ordinary brushes with only the natural colors, like mixing of green stem and flowers. Only with the natural colors these have been painted. Now these caves were hidden. You cannot immediately see these caves. They were hidden from view and they were discovered only in 1819. That is, only in the 19th century they were discovered. So what are paintings on the walls called as? Frescoes. So where can you find these frescoes in Gupta period? You can find them in Ajanta and Ellora caves. And what do these cave temples contain? They contain a meditation hall for people to pray to Lord Buddha. Whenever we learn about any empire, we learn about their literature and their architecture. But now that we are learning about Gupta period, we are going to learn about the contributions in the field of science, maths and astronomy. The Gupta period gave patronage to many mathematicians and scientists. First, let us speak about Aryabhatta. I don't think there will be anyone who doesn't know about Aryabhatta. Even our space engines have been named as Aryabhatta. Science and technology was great. Aryabhatta from Pataliputra was a great mathematician and astronomer of the Gupta period. I think you know what his contributions are, isn't it, children? He found out zero, without which we don't have any max. And he also found out what are the reasons between the eclipses. And later on in the classes, max classes, you will be learning about pi. That pi concept was also introduced by Aryabhatta. Brahmagupta was another famous mathematician of Gupta's period. And we have Varahamitra, who was a great astronomer of this period. Who is an astronomer, children? Yes, a person who learns about astronomy, the heavenly bodies. So, can you name the two mathematicians? Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta. Who's the famous astronomer? Varahamitra. Metallurgy had achieved great progress during the Gupta period. What is metallurgy? It is the branch of science which learns about the physical and chemical behavior of metals. Simply, it is just a branch of science which is studying about metals. You can just see that Gupta period in that ancient times itself had a very good knowledge about metals. This can be found from the iron pillar at Mehroli. This pillar was built during the Chandragupta first period. It's in Delhi. It's an example that the period of Gupta had wonderful knowledge of metals. This particular pillar is 98% of iron. It is built 1500 years ago. And as of now, though there have been so many natural calamities and so many problems, it has not rusted at all. Children, you do have those iron files at your home, isn't it? Those small nails and all that. If you keep it for a little bit of time outside, you can just see that there is a red coating around it. That shows that the iron particle is rusted. That is the natural action of iron. But this pillar, which is 98% iron, has not at all rusted over 1500 years. That is a wonder. People are still not able to understand how. Till the beginning of 19th century, no Europeans also could not make such kind of a pillar at all. Now this pillar bears an inscription. In that inscription, it is written that it has been erected in the honor of Vishnu, the Hindu god, and in the memory of Chandragupta II. Children, this particular pillar weighs 6 tons. It is as heavy as 6 tons, and the height of this pillar is 23 feet. Really a wonder, isn't it, children? The field of Ayurveda was very much developed during the Gupta's period. Vagabhata of the Gupta period prepared a summary of the famous work Charaka Samhita. Who was Charaka? Charaka was a contemporary doctor of Kanishka. Do you remember, children? And he had written a book called Charaka Samhita, which had complete knowledge about Ayurveda. Now, Vagabhata wrote a summary on this book, which is known as Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita. It is about all kinds of Ayurvedic medicines which can be used to make a person completely healthy and also remove the heart diseases. Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita. This is an authoritative work on Ayurveda and it is followed even today. People still refer to this book. Now, when we're talking about medicine, we have to talk about surgery. We all feel that surgery is a modern concept. It is not true, children. Surgery was practiced even during the Gupta period. Surgeons of those days had knowledge of 127 surgical instruments. They were able to remove iron or stone pieces from the human body through surgery. And also, the credit of using mercury as a medicine for the first time goes to doctors of India during the Gupta period. So, what is the book written by Vagabhata? Ashtanga Hridaya Samhita. Which book summary is it? Charaha Samhita summary. And how many instruments did the surgeons of Gupta period know? 127 surgical instruments. We have seen many contributions, isn't it, children, in the field of Sanskrit literature, in temple architecture, in metallurgy, in mathematics and science, and Ayurveda. Now, due to all these reasons which we have learnt above, Gupta period is known as the golden age in Indian history. What is Gupta period known as? The golden age in Indian history. Chandragupta II was followed by Kumaragupta, then Skandagupta, then Purugupta, followed by Kumaragupta II, Buddhagupta, then Narasimhagupta, Bhanugupta, Vainyagupta, Kumaragupta III, and Vishnugupta. But children, these kings did not rule for long. The importance of the empire dwindled after Chandragupta II. The rulers were not that strong. Another reason was the Hun people. These Huns were people who came from the tribes of northern India, from North India through the passes. These tribes are the Huns or the Mongolians, they came. They invaded the Gupta territory and caused significant damage to the empire. They plundered the wealth and they went back. Because of the invasion of the Huns and weakness of the Gupta rulers, the Gupta Empire ended in 550 CE and it disintegrated or broke into many regional Hindu kingdoms, dividing the kingdom into east, west, north, and south. A minor line of the Guptas ruled from Magadha, but even that totally declined. So, what were the reasons for the decline of the Gupta Empire? Weakness of the rulers after Chandragupta, the first reason. The second reason, the invasion of the Hun people, and it broke into many Hindu kingdoms. We have completed today's class, children. So please take out your classwork and start writing the points. The capital of Guptas was Pataliputra. The famous rulers of this dynasty were Samudragupta and Chandragupta II. The first subheading is Samudragupta. Samudragupta was a brave warrior king. The inscriptions on Allahabad pillar, written by his court poet Harisena, gives a narration about his gallant victory. Samudragupta defeated 9 kings of North India, Kushanas of Afghanistan, and satraps of Gujarat accepted his supreme power. Later, he marched towards South India and defeated 12 kings. In the memory of this conquest of Kanchi, Samudragupta performed Ashwamedha Yaga. Samudragupta was himself a poet and a musician. He had earned the title Kaviraja. His veena playing pictures were etched on the coins of those days. A Buddhist scholar, Vasubandhu, was his minister. The next subheading is Chandragupta II. He was the son and the heir of Samudragupta. He defeated the satraps of Gujarat who were ruling it for more than 3 centuries. This was his major military achievement. He had gained the title Vikramaditya. Kalidasa and other scholars were in his court. His empire was economically prosperous. The next subheading is Fahian. He was a Buddhist monk from China who wanted to visit the land of Buddha. He visited India during the rule of Chandragupta II. He refers to the Gupta period as a pro-people period. He has mentioned his experiences of India in his book Go Ku Ki. The next subheading is Golden Period of Indian History. There was tremendous amount of progress and a lot of achievements had taken place in the field of literature, architecture, sculpture, drawing, science and mathematics. Kalidasa was a major poet of Gupta period. He was one of the Navaratnas present in the court of Chandragupta II. He has written 4 epic poems and 3 dramas. Abhignana Shakuntala is a famous drama. He is appreciated as Kavi Kula Guru. Plays of Kalidasa are Vikramorvasya, Malavignamitra and Abhignana Shakuntala. Some of his epic poems are Raghuvamsha, Kumara Sambhava, Ritu Samhara and Meghaduta. Shudraka wrote Mirchakatika and Vishakadatta wrote Mudra Rakshasa. They are the other famous plays written by famous playwriters of this period. The Panchatantra of Vishnu Sharma belongs to this period. The dictionary by Amarasimha called Amarakosha is an excellent work. The Sanchi temple in Madhya Pradesh is an ancient temple of India. Other temples of Gupta period are present in Bhitargav and Devagat of Madhya Pradesh. The Dashavatara temple of Devagat has a beautiful idol of Lord Vishnu. The Megstupa, 128 feet tall, at Sarnath near Varanasi was built during the times of Guptas. Rock-cut Buddha Viharas and cave temples of Gupta's period can be found at Ajanta and Ellora. The paintings of Ajanta rock-cut caves are world famous. Paintings done on walls are called frescoes. Science and technology had progressed much during the reign of Guptas. Aryabhatta from Pataliputra and Brahmagupta were great mathematicians of this period. The iron pillar at Mehrauli near Delhi is an example of metallurgy's progress. This pillar, though 1500 years old, has not rusted or suffered wear and tear. The weight of the iron pillar at Mehrauli is 6 tons, height 23 feet. Till the beginning of 19th century, no European blacksmith could cast such an iron pillar. Vagabhata of Gupta times prepared a summary of the famous work of Charaka Samhite, known as Ashtanga Hridaya Samhite, an authoritative work on Ayurveda. Surgery was also practiced in ancient India. Surgeons of those days had knowledge of 127 surgical instruments. We have completed the points to remember, children. Now let's do some activities. The first activity is for you to identify the following figures. Observe the screen and write them down. Fill in the blanks. The capital of Guptas was dash. The first ruler to establish Gupta rule was dash. Allahabad inscriptions was created by dash. The Gupta king with the title Kaviraja was dash. Kalidasa was one of the dash present in the court of Chandragupta II. Mirchakatika was written by dash. Damek Stupa was built by Guptas in dash near Varanasi. Paintings done on walls are called dash. The Gupta period surgeons knew the use of dash surgical instruments. The famous Chinese monk who visited Chandragupta II's period was dash. Answer the following questions. Which emperor's details are available on Allahabad inscriptions? Who was Samudragupta's minister? Who earned the title Vikramaditya? Name any two plays written by Kalidasa. Where do you find frescoes of Gupta period? Who wrote Panchatantra? Which is the authoritative work on Ayurveda from the Gupta period followed even today? Gupta period is known as the golden period of Indian history. Give reasons. Children, the answers for all these activities and fill in the blanks and questions